click on it to get started. As this is the first time we've used this this app, the first thing you have to do is to enter in a user ID and password. You can either create a new account where you just need to have your email address and phone number as well as a user ID, or you can use an existing account. So here we're going to use one called Test 99. And here we select Add. So what we have here are three sections to this view. The first is where you can associate your new transponder with your account, where you need the unique identifier. You can add any existing transponders you have to this account for this device, or you can add in public transponders. And those are transponders that are owned by other people that they've chosen to make visible to anybody. So we're going to add in a couple of transponders here. 39, there we go. And you'll notice here with 54 has a pin against it, and that is a public transponder with a closed user group access, so you need to know the pin code. So we've now added those two transponders to the client, and it downloads the locations, the last 50 locations for those two transponders. So here we have number 39, and you can see which one is active because the status bar there displays 39. If we want, we can change the name. So I happen to know that that one belongs to my friend Pavel. So I'll call that one Pavel. And now, whenever that's displayed on this device, it will be called Pavel. So that isn't displayed to anybody else, it's local to the device. If we look for, where's the other transponder gone? Let's find it. 54. There we go. Then transponder 54, we can do the same thing. That's my transponder, so I'm going to call my neck. And you'll notice, if we zoom right in, then that transponder is actually quite close to where I am at the moment. So this is my location, the iPad location, with a bunch of information associated with the iPad and the actual transponder, where we have information about when that location was sent, where it was, what the battery was, etc., etc. If it was a GPS location, then we'll also get speed, direction, and altitude, and whether the device was roaming or not. We can then, if we want to, we can cycle back through previous events by just clicking on the back button, and we can look at when that event was sent and the rest of the information associated with that. Or we can click on breadcrumbs, and then we can get a view of where that device has been for the last 50 events. And of course we can look at any of those to get more information about when that was sent. So there's also other features like you can get additional information, you can get a listing of all of the push events, for example. What else can we do? We can configure this application to reflect how we want the device to actually function. So we have an account called Test 99. We can add multiple accounts if we so choose. We can look at the balance, the credit associated with that account, and top it up via PayPal. And we can define notifications. So notifications are the ways in which the system will tell you when an event has occurred. And Apple Push is enabled by default. But you can also add more events, so you can say notify me via email, via SMS, via Twitter, and via Google Messages. You can define a geofence. So if we want to define a geofence, we find the location we want to add the geofence, and then simply new, give the geofence a name, a radius, and that's it. It's done. So now, whenever the transponder leaves or exits this geofence, it will send you a notification. In this case, push it in. Transponder. Configuring the transponder, there is actually quite a lot that you can configure to fine-tune how the transponder works. For example, the sleep time is very important. The sleep time essentially determines how often the device will wake up and send the location update. So it can be set any time between 0 and 9 days. If it's set for 9 days, then it will wake up once every 9 days and send the location update. You can fine-tune the location settings. For example, how many satellites are required before it will do a location fix. And you can fine-tune the accelerometer, so enabling, disabling, and determining at what point the accelerometer will trigger waking up the device. You can set the active hours, that's when the hours in which the device will be working. So even if it's waking up every 5 minutes, you may not want that to wake up in the middle of the night every 5 minutes, and so you can set the active hours to be between perhaps 8 in the morning and 8 o'clock at night. And outside of those hours, the device will be asleep. And then on a particular day or weekday, so you can say only do this during weekdays or only do this on a Tuesday, for example. We then need to define the geofence. We need to add it to the transponder. We can then define whether we want the transponder to use GPS. Using GPS gives you more of an accurate location fix, but it does take a lot more battery power, and so the transponder won't go as long between recharges. Because the transponder uses GPS and the GSM networks and Wi-Fi, turning off the GPS doesn't mean that you won't get the fix, it just means the fix may not be quite as accurate. We can also configure the device to not work when it's aboard, or and to work in a stealth mode. This means that the lights will remain off even when the device is on. And lastly, we can set the PIN code that will allow the device, when it's being used in public mode, to be shared securely. And that's pretty much it. There are other features that can be defined, such as you can join the dots on the breadcrumbs, and you can change from a satellite map to a vector map, or vice versa. But essentially, it's a flexible interface to allow you to track what's happening to your transponder over a period of time. If you want to zoom back through events, then you just hold the back key down. When it gets to the end of the previous events that are downloaded, then it will then download the next chunk of events. So now we have another 97 events. The number of events that you can see is displayed in the top left, below the status bar. So here we display 54 of 97. And you can carry on zooming back through those events for as many as are on the server. You can see the icons start to fade, so those icons that are actually quite old on here is from several days ago. So the older they are, the more that they fade away. There you go.